Welcome to Mother's Revenge, where heartfelt stories touch your soul and may even bring you to tears. On my 30th birthday, my rich grandpa lifted his glass and smiled. "So, Ethan, how do you spend your $4.2 million trust fund?" The room froze. My mother's hand stopped midair. My father's throat twitched like he had swallowed a knife. I blinked once, twice. What trust fund? I could hear the blood pounding in my ears. My grandpa's smile faded as he turned to them and asked, calm but sharp, "Where did it go?" That was when I realized this was not a birthday dinner. It was an execution in disguise. But before I share my story with you, I would love to know you are here with me. Drop a simple hi in the comments so I know you are listening, or tell me where you are watching from. Sometimes just knowing someone is out there makes the pain easier to carry. Thank you. And now let me tell you everything. If stories like this break your heart and make you think twice about what family really means, please hit subscribe. It helps this channel grow, and maybe together we can remind people that betrayal does not always come from strangers. My name is Ethan Reynolds, and this is how my birthday exposed everything they had stolen. I never liked birthdays. They always felt like an obligation, a night to smile for pictures, pretend everything was fine, and listen to my mother brag about her Santorini trips while my father compared portfolios with his friends. But this one was different. I just did not know how different until it was too late. The Crestmont's private dining room glittered like a jewelry box, glass chandeliers, gold cutlery, and walls painted the color of champagne. My parents sat at the center table, surrounded by their wealthy friends, all laughing too loudly at jokes that were not funny. I stood there in a borrowed suit collar, too tight, trying not to think about the eviction notice taped to my fridge back in Portland. Mom's voice cut through the hum of conversation. "Ethan, darling, you should have seen the Santorini coast this summer. The water is so blue it looks fake." She lifted her wine glass like she was toasting her own perfection. Dad chimed in. "We just closed another property in Phoenix, timing the market. It is all about patience, son." He said son like he was teaching me something, though he had not taught me a damn thing in years. I nodded, forcing a smile. They did not know I had been laid off from Meridian Creative 2 weeks ago. Or maybe they did, and just did not care enough to ask. The last time I told them I was struggling, Mom sent me a link to a budgeting app. That was her version of compassion. When the waiter poured champagne and the small talk dulled, I caught my reflection in the polished silver. I looked like a ghost at someone else's party. Then the door opened and the air in the room shifted. My grandfather, Walter Reynolds, walked in. His presence commanded silence. Tall, silver-haired, his cane clicking softly against the marble floor. The maître nearly stumbled, rushing to pull out his chair. My mother froze mid-laugh, the kind of freeze that said she had not invited him. "Dad," she started, voice too sweet. "We did not know you were coming." "I would not miss my grandson's 30th, he said calmly, eyes finding mine. "Happy birthday, Ethan." He hugged me solid and real, and for the first time that night, I breathed. He sat down beside me, ordered a whiskey neat, and let the table return to its shallow rhythm. For a while I thought maybe he was just passing through Seattle, dropping in to surprise me. But there was something in his expression too deliberate, too knowing. Then he raised his glass and the sound of clinking forks faded. "So, Ethan," he said lightly, "how do you spend your $4.2 million trust fund?" Every muscle in my body locked. My brain scrambled to process the words. I blinked once, twice. "What trust fund?" Silence slammed across the table. Mom's smile cracked like porcelain. Dad's throat moved as if he had swallowed glass. Grandpa Walter did not move. He just leaned back in his chair and looked at them with the kind of calm that could split steel. "The trust fund I created for Ethan when he was born," he said. The one you were supposed to transfer to him at 25. Where did it go? Mom let out a strained laugh. Oh, Dad, there must be some mistake. Enough, he said, the words slicing through her voice. We will speak privately. Within minutes, we were escorted to a smaller room. No chandeliers, no music, just the hiss of air vents and the heavy quiet of exposure. Waiting inside were two people, Daniel Harper, my grandfather's attorney, and Olivia Martinez, his assistant, holding a tablet. This will not take long, Grandpa said. Daniel opened a folder, sliding a stack of documents across the table. Mr. Reynolds, this is the trust account created under your name. Initial deposit $1.3 million. Based on market growth, current value should be approximately $4.2 million. Should be, my grandfather repeated. Daniel nodded. As of this morning, the balance is $10,000. It was like a physical blow. My head buzzed, my pulse hammering against my neck. Mom's hand trembled on her clutch. Dad wiped his forehead with a napkin. Grandpa's voice remained calm. Explain. Dad stammered. We used some of it. The market crashed. We had the mortgage. Some Grandpa interrupted. That is over $3 million, Richard. Mom's voice cracked. We were managing it for him. We did not want him to waste it. I laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. You mean like wasting it on rent or food or student loans? She turned to me, eyes glassy. Sweetheart, we only wanted what is best for you. Grandpa raised a hand and the room went silent. Enough. He turned to Olivia. List the withdrawals. Her voice was steady, mechanical. Mortgage payoff, $520,000. Vehicle purchases, 2 Tesla Model S, $310,000. Home renovation, $360,000. Investment in Karen Reynolds. Realty, $600,000. Purchase of property in Santa Monica, $2.4 million. Grandpa's gaze never left them. A beach house registered under your names. It was an investment, Dad said weakly. It was theft, Grandpa replied. From your own son. The silence that followed felt endless. Finally, he said, Give me the keys. Mom hesitated, eyes darting to her purse. Then she pulled out a key ring, 2 keys, and a fob, and slid them across the table. Grandpa pushed them toward me. These are yours. 2 years late. The keys were still warm from her palm when I picked them up. My chest felt hollow. Mom's tears came softly, practiced. Please, Dad, do not do this. We are family. Family does not steal from family, he said. You will hear from my lawyers tomorrow. They left the room slowly, as if the air itself weighed them down. When the door closed, I could finally breathe again, though it felt like inhaling dust. Grandpa turned to me. Evan, he stopped correcting himself. Ethan, I will have a full audit done. They will face legal consequences, but whether to press charges, that is up to you. I looked down at the keys, metal cold against my skin. I need time, I whispered. Take it, he said. But know this, they were planning to run. Olivia found tickets to Costa Rica, purchased 3 days ago. My stomach tightened. They had smiled through dinner, knowing they had already planned their escape. That night I walked out of the Crestmont with the keys in my pocket and a storm in my chest. For the first time in my life, I was not just disappointed in them. I was done pretending they loved me at all. 2 days before that dinner, I sat in my apartment in Northwood District, staring at the rejection email glowing on my laptop screen. Meridian Creative was cutting staff, and I was one of the names on the list. I had worked there 5 years, designing brand identities for companies that would never remember mine. Rent was due. My savings were a joke. Come on, man. Tyler, Brooks said from the couch, half a pizza box on his lap. You are not worthless. You are just broke. That is temporary. I forced a smile. Tell that to my landlord. When I told my parents, Mom did not even look up from her laptop. "Oh, that is too bad, honey. You will figure it out. You always do." I told her I was behind on rent. She sighed. "Maybe this will teach you to save better. Anyway, we are making reservations for your birthday dinner. The Crestmont at 7:30. Do not be late, Mom. That place is $350 a plate." She laughed. "Do not be cheap, Ethan. It is your birthday. Dress nicely." The line went dead. I stared at my reflection in the dark screen. Tired eyes split ends. A man who looked older than 30. Tyler looked up. "You do not have to go." "Yeah, I do," I said quietly. "In my family, skipping dinner is worse than blasphemy." The week crawled by. I sent resumes, updated my portfolio, watched rejection emails stack up. Every sound in the hallway made me flinch, half expecting the landlord's knock. One night around 2:00 a.m., Tyler found me hunched over my laptop scrolling job boards. "Ethan, go to bed." "I cannot," I said. "If I stop, I will think about it." "About what?" "About them. About sitting through another dinner where I am just background noise." He squeezed my shoulder. "Then make it the last time they treat you like that." At the time, I did not understand what he meant, but those words would echo later under that chandelier when my grandfather turned to me and asked about a trust fund I never knew existed. Back when I was in college, I had worked double shifts at a print shop to pay tuition. My parents had not helped not a dime. At graduation, they hugged me, told me how proud they were, and handed me a gift-wrapped box. Inside was a hardcover book, Building Wealth for Beginners. That night I cried in the bathroom sink, realizing they had not planned to help me at all. I thought maybe they wanted to teach me self-reliance. Now I know they were just hiding the truth that the money meant for me was already theirs. In our family, success was measured in silence. You did not ask about money. You did not ask why Dad suddenly had a new car, or why Mom's real estate office kept expanding. You smiled and said, "I am doing great, even when you are not." Years later, my grandfather sent me a handwritten note on my birthday. Just one sentence. "Do not let silence strangle your voice." I did not understand then, but standing in that room at the Crestmont, hearing him ask that question, everything clicked into place. A week before the dinner, Tyler had shown me a picture he took while in Seattle, a random snapshot he had caught downtown. "Hey, is that your mom?" he had said. She was walking out of a law office, clutching a thick envelope. The name on the building read, "Henderson and Gay Custodian Renewal Services." I brushed it off. Probably another business deal, but that image came back to me later like a fuse lit quietly in the dark. That night before the dinner, I wrote a note to myself in my sketchbook. "If they tell you to be quiet, do not." I did not know why I wrote it then, but maybe somewhere deep down I already felt the storm coming. The air in that small private room felt thinner than outside. The chandelier in the main hall had been all light and laughter. Here the light was flat, merciless, pressing against every face. The waiter closed the door behind us, leaving only my parents, my grandfather, his attorney, his assistant, and me. The sound of the latch clicking shut was almost ceremonial, like a verdict being sealed. Daniel opened a thick folder. "Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds," he said evenly. "This account was opened the day Ethan was born. You two were appointed trustees until his 25th birthday." He paused, sliding the documents toward them. "The expected balance given compounded growth should be approximately $4.2 million. The current balance is $10,000. For a moment, no one breathed. My father blinked, mouth half open, searching for words that would not come. My mother reached for her glass, realized it was empty, and let her hand drop. Grandpa sat perfectly still, eyes on them. "Start explaining." Dad coughed. "The market crashed. We had to cover the house payments. The mortgage was just temporary borrowing. You know how it was. Daniel flipped the next page. Mortgage $520,000. Vehicle purchases 2 Tesla Model S. Performance models $310,000. Home renovation kitchen and pool upgrade $360,000. Investment into Karen Reynolds. Realty $600,000. Purchase of property in Santa Monica $2.4 million. That property is titled under both your names. Grandpa's voice was calm, but it carried weight. That is the money meant for him. You used it like it was your own. Mom's voice wavered. We were managing it for Ethan. He has never been good with money. We wanted to protect him from wasting it. Protect me, I said, almost laughing. You let me drown in student loans and eviction notices while you built a pool and bought matching Teslas. She turned to me, eyes wide, tears forming but not falling. Sweetheart, everything we did was for you. You have no idea what it costs to keep up appearances in this family. Grandpa's hand slammed the table once, not hard, but final. Enough. Family does not teach responsibility by stealing. They teach it by example. Olivia, who had been silent until then, tapped her tablet. There is more. We located a secondary property, a condo in Harborview, Seattle, purchased with funds from the same account. It has been rented for the last 3 years. The rental income has been deposited directly into Mrs. Reynolds' personal account. I stared at my mother, remembering the shiny silver key fob that always hung from her purse with a small tag stamped uptown. I had once thought it was a friend's. Now I knew better. Grandpa turned to her. Give him the keys. She hesitated. Dad, please. Now. Her hand trembled as she reached into her bag, pulled out the ring, and slid it across the table. The metal scraped the surface with a sharp sound. I picked it up heavy in my palm like the weight of all the years I had believed their lies. Dad leaned forward, voice low, desperate. We can fix this. We will sell the house, liquidate some assets. We just need time. Grandpa's eyes did not waver. You have had 28 years of time. Daniel closed the folder. Mr. Reynolds, given the pattern of misuse, we recommend freezing their accounts and initiating restitution. Before he could continue, Olivia looked up from her tablet. There is one more thing, she said carefully. I found 2 flight confirmations to Costa Rica 3 days from now, booked under Richard and Karen Reynolds, paid in full this morning. The air seemed to stop moving. My father's face went pale. My mother pressed her lips together, refusing to look up. Grandpa's voice cut through the silence. You were planning to run. No one spoke. He stood, the chair legs scraping against the floor. Tomorrow morning, 9 Huzero, Reynolds Estates. If you do not show up, I will assume you are admitting to everything, and we will proceed accordingly. He turned to me. Ethan, you should be there too. I nodded. My voice caught somewhere between fury and exhaustion. I will be there. Then softer to my parents. Tomorrow we talk like adults, not shadows. When they left, the room seemed to breathe again. My grandfather placed a hand on my shoulder, steady and grounding. Do not fear the silence, he said. It is the moment truth gets the loudest. That night I did not sleep. The keys to a life I had never lived sat on my nightstand, glinting under the dim light. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my parents' faces. Not guilty, not sorry, just caught. And for the first time, I was not sure which hurt more. 3 days later, the city of Seattle looked sharper than I remembered. Every skyscraper like a blade cutting into the sky. I stood in front of the Reynolds Estates headquarters, 30 floors of glass and steel reflecting the morning sun. The place my family's empire was built. The place they had tried to erase me from. When I stepped into the lobby, Olivia was already waiting by the elevator, tablet in hand. They are upstairs, she said quietly. Your grandfather wanted you here before it starts. The elevator ride felt endless. At the 32nd floor, the doors opened to a long corridor lined with glass offices. Through them, I could see my parents sitting opposite my grandfather in the main conference room. Daniel stood by the window flipping through papers. Inside, the air smelled like polished wood and cold coffee. My grandfather did not look up when I entered. He spoke without turning. "Close the door." When it clicked shut, he said, "We are not here to negotiate. We are here to clarify." My parents exchanged a glance. Mom started. "Dad, we never meant for it to go this far. You just what?" he interrupted. "Borrowed from your son's future." Dad leaned forward. "We were desperate trying to keep the company afloat. The mortgage," Daniel cut him off. "Both of you signed as trustees. This is not borrowing. It is misappropriation." Mom's voice rose brittle. "We did it for the family, for Ethan. We thought what?" I snapped, "that I would never find out. That I would just keep thanking you for the scraps you gave me while you lived off my inheritance." The room went still. My grandfather's hand tightened around his coffee mug, knuckles white. Daniel opened a new folder and laid out several printed photos, wire transfers, bank statements, offshore accounts. "These are recent transfers to a Cayman Islands account under a shell corporation. The account holder of record is Richard Reynolds." My father's face drained of color. "That is a business investment, not what you think." Grandpa's voice was like stone. "You did not just take the money, you tried to wash it clean." Dad slammed a hand on the table. "You think we wanted this? You have no idea what kind of pressure we have been under." Grandpa's reply was quiet but lethal. "No one forced you to live beyond your means. Greed is a choice." I finally spoke, and I was taught that asking about money was disrespectful. Turns out silence was your best cover. My mother's lips trembled. "Ethan, please." Olivia's voice broke in steady. "We also found a document filed last month. An attempt to transfer the majority of Reynolds Estate's shares to Mrs. Reynolds' name. The signature line for Mr. Walter Reynolds was forged." My mother's eyes filled with tears, but my father did not deny it. He just stared at the table. "Daniel said that constitutes fraud and forgery. The penalty can include imprisonment." Mom finally broke down. "Dad, we were only trying to protect what is ours. The company, the family." Grandpa stood, his shadow stretching long across the polished floor. "The family does not need protection from the truth." I got to my feet too. My voice shook but did not falter. "I do not want apologies. I want what is mine, and the years you stole back." My grandfather's eyes met mine. "He does not need revenge," he said quietly. "He needs justice." He turned to Daniel. "Freeze their accounts, all of them, effective immediately." Daniel nodded, gathering the files. Olivia silently took the documents and stepped outside to make the call. No one moved. Through the glass wall behind us, the city shimmered under the afternoon light, all sharp edges and long shadows. My parents sat there motionless, stripped of the illusion that had held this family together for decades. When the security officer arrived to escort them out, my mother looked back once, her eyes glassy, and whispered something I could not hear. The door shut behind them with a soft thud. I stood there, heart heavy, not triumphant, just hollow. I thought justice would feel cleaner, sharper, but it did not. It just felt quiet. As I turned toward the window, I saw our reflections overlapping in the glass, mine, my grandfather's, and the fading silhouettes of two people walking away. For the first time, the distance between us looked permanent, and somehow that was the only piece I had left. The ocean looked calm from the highway, but when we turned down the private road leading to the Santa Monica property, I could hear it roaring under the surface. 1 week after the confrontation at the glass tower, I was standing in front of the house my parents had bought with my future. It was beautiful in the most nauseating way. White walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, a balcony that seemed to float over the water. The kind of place people post online with the caption, "Living the Dream." I could not stop thinking that the dream had been paid for with my trust fund. Grandpa stepped out of the car, slowly leaning on his cane. Olivia followed, holding a folder and a flashlight. The house smelled of salt and new paint, too clean, too curated. The real estate contract still sat on the marble counter next to a bottle of half-empty champagne. This was their pride, Grandpa said. His voice was low but steady. Now it is evidence. I walked through the hallway, fingers trailing across the cool plaster. The walls still had faint streaks of paint, probably from the last renovation. Each mark felt like a fingerprint of their deception. I remembered eating instant noodles in my one-bedroom apartment in Portland while they hosted charity galas. Every bill I struggled to pay was a brick in this house. Olivia opened a built-in safe in the office and pulled out a sealed envelope. Inside were copies of the property title and something else, a legal document with my grandfather's signature. She handed it to him carefully. He read in silence, eyes narrowing. "This," he said, "is my old will." The page was yellowed at the edges, dated nearly 10 years earlier. The only beneficiary listed was my mother. My name was not anywhere on it. Grandpa folded it slowly and sighed. I once believed blood mattered more than integrity. For a moment, the sound of the surf filled the room. I did not feel vindicated. I felt hollow. But taking back what was mine did not feel like victory. It felt like inheriting ashes. "Do you want to keep the house?" he asked quietly. I shook my head. "No, sell it. I do not want to live inside a monument to betrayal." Olivia started photographing the interior for the audit report. When she reached the balcony, she stopped, her phone lighting up with a notification. She walked back to us, her expression tightening. "They have gone public," she said. "Karen and Richard Reynolds just issued a statement through their attorney. They are claiming they are victims of manipulation, that your grandfather coerced them into signing false documents." Grandpa did not even flinch. "Of course they did." I stared out the glass wall toward the gray line of the sea. "They are going to fight this to the end." He nodded once. "They have chosen their path. And once you choose deceit, you have to live inside it." Outside, the wind picked up. I stepped onto the deck, looking out at the water. The horizon was almost black, the waves breaking like a warning. Somewhere behind me, I heard the shutters clicking as Olivia closed the doors. The house felt emptier than before, as if every lie had finally been drained from it. As we drove away, the reflection of the house in the rear-view mirror shimmered and disappeared into the distance. I did not look back. 3 weeks later, I woke up to find my name trending on every local news site in Texas. Son accuses parents of stealing $4.2 million trust fund. The headline felt surreal, like it belonged to someone else. My phone buzzed non-stop messages from old classmates, co-workers, distant relatives. Some offered sympathy, others sent thinly veiled mockery. Grandpa called that morning. "Stay calm," he said. "Do not respond to anything online. The truth does not need an argument." But the truth was already out of my hands. By noon, the first leak hit social media, a short clip from the Reynolds estate's internal meeting. It showed the moment I confronted my parents. My mother's trembling voice, my father's silence, my grandfather's words. Family does not steal from family. Someone inside the company had recorded it on their phone and sent it to a journalist, and now it was everywhere. 2 days later, my mother appeared on a local morning show dressed in white, her voice perfectly controlled. "My son is being manipulated," she said. "My father is old, confused, and Ethan does not realize he is being used to destroy our family." The host nodded sympathetically. They made her look like the victim. I turned off the TV halfway through, shaking. Daniel called that afternoon. They have hired a media law firm in Houston. They are planning to sue for defamation and emotional distress." "Of course they are," I said. "They have always preferred a prettier lie over an ugly truth." That evening, Daniel forwarded me an encrypted email that had come from an anonymous sender. It contained scanned contracts and transaction records, proof that my father had invested part of the stolen money into an illegal casino project in Arizona. The transfers were marked under an offshore company. "This changes everything," Daniel said. "Whoever sent this knew exactly where to look." I leaned back in my chair, trying to absorb it. So it is not just theft anymore. It is criminal laundering. He nodded and said someone close to them probably leaked it to save their own skin. The next morning, Olivia burst into my apartment with her laptop. "You need to see this," she said. On screen was a tabloid article claiming that my grandfather suffered from early-onset dementia. The source, according to the journalist, was a close family contact. My mother had been photographed leaving a cafe with the reporter the night before. I felt my throat tighten. They are trying to make him look senile. Discredit everything. Grandpa, when he heard, only smiled faintly. Desperation always turns to slander. Let them talk. The facts will outlive their words. But the noise was growing louder. Journalists camped outside my building. Friends from Portland stopped calling, afraid of being dragged into it. I became the man whose parents stole his fortune. A headline, not a person. A week later, I received an invitation from their attorney for a private meeting to discuss resolution. Against my better judgment, I went. The law office smelled of leather and dust. My parents sat side by side, thinner, now faces drawn. My father spoke first. "If you drop the charges, we will settle 50-50. We will even include the Santa Monica property." I stared at them. "And what does my silence cost these days?" My mother's eyes watered. "Your father is not well. His heart, I said quietly. "The only disease he has is greed." She flinched. My father's knuckles went white. "You have turned on your own blood." "I did not turn on anyone," I said. "You did that the moment you decided your comfort was worth my life." When I left the room, I felt lighter and heavier all at once. Some bridges do not burn. They collapse quietly. That evening, Daniel called again. "It is official. The FBI has opened a financial investigation into Richard Reynolds' offshore accounts, foreign investments, possible tax evasion. It's not just a civil case anymore. It's a full criminal investigation with prison time on the table." I sat down, staring at the city lights outside my window. Everything had moved beyond control, past family, past repair. Grandpa came to my apartment that night. He looked tired, his usual sharpness softened. "I will testify," he said simply. "They need to hear it from me." "You do not have to," I said. "They will tear into you the press." He cut me off gently. "I have carried this name for 75 years. Ethan, I will not let them bury it in lies." After he left, I opened my notebook and wrote a single line. "Justice always has a price, and I am about to pay it in full." The city outside was buzzing cars, moving like veins of light through the dark. Somewhere beyond that skyline, my parents were preparing for their defense, their interviews, their next lie. I did not know what would come next, but for the first time I was not afraid of the truth, only of what it would take to see it through. The morning of the trial, Seattle was covered in fog so thick it felt like the city was holding its breath. Reporters crowded the courthouse steps, cameras flashing as I walked past. Every click felt like a bullet. Inside the courtroom smelled of paper, old wood, and tension. Grandpa sat in the front row, straight-backed and calm. Across the aisle, my parents looked smaller than I had ever seen them. Mom in her white suit trying to smile, Dad staring at the table. When the judge called us to order, Daniel stepped forward, laying out the evidence like a surgeon exposing a wound. "Your Honor, this is the financial record of the Ethan Reynolds Trust. Each withdrawal was unauthorized. He listed them methodically: the mortgage, the Teslas, the Santa Monica house. My parents' lawyer interrupted, claiming we had fabricated a story to seize control of the estate. The judge nodded, allowing him to continue. Mr. Reynolds, the lawyer said, turning to me, "Isn't it true your grandfather once wrote that Karen should handle the company to avoid taxes?" He held up a printed email. The room stirred. Grandpa did not move, but something flickered in his eyes. Daniel rose, holding the original version. "That line was cut," he said, reading the full text. "Temporary transfer, but under no circumstances may the Ethan Trust be touched." The noise in the courtroom died instantly. My mother's hand shook. My father's head fell into his hands. Olivia testified next. Her calm voice filled the room. She spoke about the flight tickets to Costa Rica, about my mother's words. "After Saturday, no one will find us." The judge leaned forward. My parents froze, caught in the echo of their own plan. When it was my turn to speak, I stood and faced them. "You taught me to be independent," I said, "but never honest. You made me believe being silent was mature when it was just convenient for you." My mother began to cry. "We did it for you," she said. "No," I replied. "You did it to protect your reflection." Then Grandpa rose. "Your Honor," he said, handing over a single document, "I hereby transfer all my shares of Reynolds Estates to Ethan. From this day, he bears the name, not them." The judge nodded once, and the verdict came hours later. Karen and Richard Reynolds guilty of breach of trust and financial fraud. Restitution of $2.1 million, 3 years in federal prison followed by 5 years of probation. When the bailiffs led them away, my mother turned her voice barely above a whisper. "You do not know what you have killed." I met her eyes. "I did not kill it, Mom. It was already dead." 6 months later, Portland was warm and forgiving. I woke every morning to sunlight spilling through my apartment window, the smell of coffee in the air. Reynolds Estates, no longer Delton property. It had become a small, creative fund helping young designers start their careers. Grandpa had retired to Bend, Oregon. When I visited, he would sit on his porch reading a cup of tea balanced beside him. He looked lighter, as if the trial had stripped years from his shoulders. One afternoon, Daniel emailed me, "Update. Your parents are complying with restitution, living quietly in Spokane." I stared at the message for a long time, then closed it. No satisfaction, just balance. A week later, Olivia delivered an envelope, a letter from my mother. Her handwriting was perfect, the same loops she used when signing checks. "I am not asking for forgiveness," it said. "But for the first time I know what it means to fear losing a child." I folded it back carefully and said nothing. That weekend I visited Grandpa. "Do you feel peace now?" he asked. "Not happiness," I said, "but peace. Justice does not fix what is broken. It just stops the bleeding." He smiled faintly. "Then you have learned what matters." Before I left, he handed me a sealed envelope, his new will. Most of his remaining assets were going into a scholarship fund for art students under my name. "You do not owe the family anything," he said. "Build your own legacy." That night, I stood on my balcony overlooking the city. I wrote the final line to an article I had been working on for weeks. The price of silence. It was not about money. It was about learning to speak even when your voice shakes. When it was published, strangers wrote to me, people who had been betrayed by family, who had lost everything and rebuilt. One message said, "You did not just reclaim your inheritance. You reclaimed yourself." I closed my laptop and looked toward the faint glow of Seattle on the horizon. "Grandpa was right," I whispered. "Money buys silence, but truth buys freedom." And for the first time, the quiet did not hurt anymore. It felt like home. When I look back now, I realize justice was never about punishing them. It was about freeing myself from the silence they built around me. Losing my family was not the end of something. It was the start of finally becoming who I am without permission. If you have ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you, know this. You can rebuild from the ruins. You can start again, stronger, clearer, louder. If my story reached you tonight, drop a comment below. Tell me where you are from and share what you have survived. Let us remind each other we are never truly alone in the fight to take our voices back.